And welcome to the Full Advisor Coaching Podcast with Kristin Harrod. Kristin, this is an interesting topic because I'll tell you, quite honestly, what you're going to talk about today just wasn't even really a serious discussion even 10 years ago in offices around the world. And that's, of course, what we're talking about is work-life balance, which...
Oh, Bill, let me correct you right there.
Oh, really?
We're going to talk about work-life balance and how that is not the model we want to follow.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And how work-life balance actually implies that you're constantly trying to get into equilibrium.
Okay.
And that you have to give up one to get the other, right? To get it to balance.
Oh, it implies a conflict. You said there's no conflict.
Yeah. In fact, we are going to ditch work-life balance in this, and we are going to focus on work-life integration.
Ooh, I like that. Okay.
Yeah. And so what's actually pretty cool about this, and I will agree with you that it wasn't a concept people talked about for a long time, is that it's actually evolved even more. And I think coming out of the pandemic is where people started to see, hey, my life is pretty darn important. And I care
only have
about
one of these. So,
yes. Yeah. And I care about like having other parts of my life. And we had time to reevaluate and rethink things. Mm-hmm. So it's really, today I want to talk about how you can intentionally integrate your work, because the people listening here are, high achievers,
yes,
leaders in organizations, really love working. Like I love working as well. And it's like, how do we make that contribute to a full life versus being in competition with it?
I really, really like that, but the secret is in how.
Yes. Well, yeah, and it's certainly not easy, and I think it's mostly a mindset shift around when you're approaching, how you're looking at your work and how you're looking at your life. It's like, what if they weren't in competition? What if they could support and fuel each other? Mm-hmm. And what if your work and the way you structure it is very intentional, especially if we're talking to people who are in that spot where they're creating version 2.0, right? Where they've gotten enough experience under their belt to know what you like, what you don't like, what works for you and what doesn't. Now we have an opportunity at this kind of mid-career to later career stage to say, what do I really want to create? What does it look like? So we're going to go through an exercise today that I did recently at the FPA Retreat. And I had a phenomenal group of advisors in the room who participated and brought up great points and examples. And I'm going to share some of that today because it was a really energizing and powerful session that I learned from, as well as the audience. So,
oh, great. Well, then let's start.
Let's start. So the way to start this, and we'll have a download for people to look at to, fill in the sheet if they want to, but we'll prompt the questions. And essentially, we're going to first, what I did in the workshop and what I know we've touched on in previous episodes is kind of looking out at that 3-year vision of like, what do you want your life to look like? What's important to you? What is the lifestyle you want? What is that? How do we want it to come together? So in the exercise, I asked people to pick a date in the future, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever resonates with you. And then take a look with that date in mind. Then I want us to look at 5 areas of work-life integration. And so what we did was we kind of worked through this worksheet. And so on the life side of the equation, it was looking at your life and your vision. Okay, I'm looking out 3 years from now. I know I will be an empty nester. I will be, hopefully still doing the work that I love doing. And it's like, what do you want? Like, what is it that you're looking for? And then on the other side of the exercise, we look at how does work integrate to support you in that endeavor. So we'll get into real life examples here, but it really stems from this concept that I've been really fascinated about. Cal Newport, who I've mentioned before, he wrote a book, Slow Productivity, and I think he wrote Deep Work, and he runs a podcast called Deep Questions, and he talks about lifestyle-centric planning. Mm-hmm. And the concept that you create the vision for the life you want and then fold in everything to head in that direction. So rather than being specifically goal-based, like I want to be a CEO by the time I'm 45, or I'd like to be, a multimillionaire by this date, it's more about this is the lifestyle I want to create. And what does that mean? And how do I fuel myself to get there? So that's a very cool concept that I could listen to him talk about that all day. I think he's writing another book around that concept, so that should be coming out. And then I just recently, because I know the listeners love books and resources, I just picked up Designing Your Life, which is a book by two Stanford professors. And we'll have it in the show notes. I can't remember their names. It's Dave and Bill, I think, but I don't know their last name. But
it's nice you're on a first name basis with them.
Yeah, I know them well. But I just started the book, but they also started with like, what's your work view and what's your life view? So I'm like, okay, I'm very energized by this topic. So I can't claim to have all the answers, but I like to ask the questions around it and keep pursuing it as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like what you're talking about is more setting priorities for yourself, the things that are important, the things that matter, as opposed to I want to be a multimillionaire by the time I'm 45. I want to be CEO of a Fortune 500 company by the time I'm 50. Not that, but what is it you want?
Exactly. It's about, yes, values and tapping into that and aligning with that. So let's dig into this exercise. And again, it's one of many ways you can look at it, but this is one that we got some traction on, so I'm excited to share. So if we look at these 5 areas of life, we're going to look at your environment, your time, your relationships, or people, your well-being, and then experiences or impact or community, however you want to look at that, like what's the difference you're making. And then we're going to ask questions. And I have my own little sheet filled out here, Bill. We're going to have this on. I know we're going to have that as a download. So it's available there. But so let's work through one, and then I think you'll get a good sense. So let's say we're looking out 3 years from today. So we're looking out in 2028 per today. Yeah. What is, and the question under your life is, where and how do you want to live? This is under environment. Like, describe your environment. Where are you living? What is it like? Now, I can tell you that for me, I'm living somewhere where I'm near the ocean. I always like to be near water. I don't like to feel that I can't easily access water. I know that
we could put you on a lake, Kristin.
I know you could. I like the coast. So, and then it's also, I like to know that I can walk to the things I need in my life. So I'm very walking centralized, and I'm not as much about like square footage or large home or any of that.
So you're really a city.
Yeah,
person.
City and somewhere where you can just be more accessible to things you need in life. So I picture that. And I also picture perhaps having some more outdoor space and having just maybe a little less hectic lifestyle, et cetera, which will happen somewhat naturally. So I start thinking about that, right? Of like, okay, what are the things that you want in your life? And a lot of people will, look at like, oh, we love the home we live in. We're excited about our, remodeling the kitchen. We finally like put in the office we wanted. Could be lots of different things. A great example of the lifestyle-centric planning is if you're like, oh, someday I'm going to live on a farm and I'm going to have a writing shed in the back, yard, and I'm going to be able to spend my Fridays writing a book. And then I'll tend to my garden, and I will go down to the lake and, take walks and do my work from home and do all these different things. So there's lots of different ways that you can think about it. But then the question is, well, how does your work support what you want to create? So obviously, technology might be playing a big role. So if you're looking at your firm and looking at what you want to do, and you're thinking, oh, the kids are going to graduate and we might want to relocate, but I don't want to give up my business, right? So like if you're leading a firm and you're like, I don't want to give up my business, maybe you, as we see everywhere, like you implement a hybrid schedule, right? So you're like, okay, my work is going to allow for me, we want to move and do some other things. So let's do a hybrid schedule. Let's make sure we upgrade our tech stack so that it supports, we have that doing our financial planning and all of our wealth management. We have all the security and everything we need in place to feel really comfortable about that. Maybe you're like, oh, one of the things is we'd love coming to the office, but your office space doesn't really energize you, or it's too cluttered or too draining, or there's not enough space. Maybe it's about remodeling or readjusting or freeing up the space there in a different way. So there's lots of ways to look at it. I'll say I have a client I work with out in San Francisco, and they had one of their senior advisors they were working out here pre-pandemic. We all met in the office. They were in the office every day. Then pandemic, they went remote. And then they started getting together one day a week. And then she decided she wanted to move back to the East Coast, where she was from and where she had roots and where she still owned a home. And she and her husband moved back there. And now they have a fully remote team, and they get together in San Francisco 1 week a quarter. And come together and do like team building activities and do strategic planning. And so they've structured it that way to serve the lives of some of the senior people who have envisioned what is it that they want. They still want to be in the firm. They still want to be growing, but they had bigger visions for their life and family. So that's a pretty cool example, I think.
No, that is very cool, because it is designed. It is intentional. Since it's what they want, I imagine that they're probably very happy people as a result.
Exactly. And I know that I have another firm I'm working with in Michigan who they have a culture where people come in, I think almost every day, if not every day, and with a lot of flexibility, of course, but they're doing a remodel of their space to make it more inviting, more welcoming, to have a little more space for people, and to make it just a more pleasant place to show up to work every day, which I think is another way to think about it from a leadership standpoint. And then everyone feels good, they're more energized, and that fuels into, oh, this fits with my life and how I want to be.
Makes sense.
All right, so that was kind of a long explanation of environment, but I do think that where and how you want to live is a big driver.
No, I think so. In the middle of all of that, you did touch on time, because you were talking about some flexibility of schedule and things like that.
Yes, and so time is a big one, and frankly, I think time pretty much fuels all of these other things, because it gets down to like, what's an ideal week look like for you? And I'm not saying perfection here, but like, generally speaking, how do you like to structure your week, and what would be perfect for you? So if you're thinking ahead to that, one of the gentlemen in my session we held was saying that he, pretty established in his career, leading his firm and doing, has a good team in place. He's like, I only want to work 4 days a week. I want to take Fridays off, but I don't take Fridays off, and I end up just doing work, even though I don't want to do that, but I just kind of do it because he said, I don't know what else to do. Ooh. So this was interesting. So then you look at going, how do you structure your work to accommodate the schedule that you want? Right. So how do you set up your week? Yeah. And it was interesting because someone else in the room suggested to him to sign up, to force it, like to sign up to play pickleball every Friday or join a class or take a class on Fridays or a workshop or something where it becomes the item on your calendar that you have to do so it doesn't get filled with work. So it kind of teaches you, hey, it's okay for me to get out of the office for a day or put down, close the computer and have something lined up. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I do like that. I like that little hack. Yeah. Good. Then sign up for something where you have a commitment at 10 o'clock on Friday.
Right.
And
exactly.
You can't be in the office. You've got to be there.
And even if it's not like, oh, this is the thing that I'm going to do forever and ever, it's an experiment, right? It gets back to the concept of intentional design that's in this book, Designing Your Life. It's like, try an experiment for a period of time.
Yeah, it also recognizes the fact that it's like we collectively, humans collectively, aren't really good at change. We like stuff like a certain way because it's a certain way. We've done it that way. And even when we want to think outside of that, we find it very hard to break that pattern.
Right. Absolutely. I fall victim to it too. I have to make myself be like, okay, I'm not working today. Yes. Today is not a work day. Yeah. But in terms of structuring work to accommodate like whatever your ideal schedule is, and sometimes it's I'm finished work by 3. I can tell you I'm done with work every day by 4 because I go to the gym then. Like I just know that it's like, it's on the calendar. I don't have a meeting that runs past 4 because I have to leave to do my walk over to the gym. So that's just how it's done. And on the rare occasion where that doesn't work out, then I block out 2 hours in the middle of the day where that happens. But the default schedule is I need to be wrapped up by 4, and it works, right? Yeah. So how can you structure work? You can, this is where you become master of your calendar and time blocking, which I know everyone gets all excited about. Like, how do I time block? What do I do? Yeah. I think a big thing you can do is have an assistant who defends your calendar. So who says, great, I'm scheduling you. I'm blocking your calendar so that you can't have meetings on Fridays, or when I offer availability to people, it's like, no, she does her client meetings Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, things like that. And that's very common. But it's hard to stick to the blocks. So you have to, it's helpful to have someone hold you accountable to it, whether it's a coach or an assistant or a team member. You can also, a good hack on that is to bunch the purpose of certain like client meetings Tuesday and Thursday. When I do my one-on-one coaching forever, I've been like, it's first and third or second and fourth Tuesdays. That's how it works. It's just, you set a schedule and it makes it a whole lot easier, and it actually frees you up a whole lot more because when you're doing different things. And another big thing, which one of my clients told me, is like to cross-train team members. So that if you need to, if there's only one person who executes the trades, that person never gets. Oh yeah. What if that person isn't there? Yeah. Right. So then it's like, okay, how is it that we can allow for someone to be able to cover or to take more time off so that you have another team member who can step in and at least keep the wheels on the bus or the train on the tracks or whatever the metaphor is.
It's funny. I learned this concept because I worked with a lot of engineers, and the fundamental engineering concept is redundancy. And when you work with enough engineers, they're always like, you have to have redundancy, Billy. There has to be with that fails, how does that work? How does that go? Oh. And so you immediately start thinking, oh God, Kristin executes the trades, but maybe I ought to have Tim work with Kristin so that if Kristin needs off or is not here, Tim can execute it. Yeah. So you just start, it's funny. It's a little attitude that starts in your mind, and it just becomes like a part of the process. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it also helps team members have appreciation for what other people do. And
it does.
They don't have to be the greatest ever, but who's covering the phone? Like, who's doing that? So those types of things. Yeah. All right, let's move on to relationships or people. And so in the vision of your life, who are you spending your time with, right? Is it family? Is it friends? Is it your community? Is it people at work? Is it your clients? Who is it in your life that you want to be surrounded by, and who is it that you want to have time for? This gets back to time again. Time is pretty much the through line on this, but like, who are the people, right? And so, in my life, I go, oh, my siblings are on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. So, I'd like to say, oh, what can I do to be able to spend some more time with them and be more intentional about getting a week, 1 week a year where we do a trip together, we do something, so that might be something in my vision where I'm like, oh, I'd like to be able to see my siblings more often, or I want the flexibility to be able to visit my kids wherever they happen to be because they are launched and they're doing their college things and their post-college things. So, so looking ahead, thinking about that, and then you're like, okay, well, how does work foster that need for relationships? And I like relationships through work too. Like having a deep relationship matters a lot to me. And as someone who is often doing work on my own, I find the interaction with my clients to be a key point of fulfillment for me.
100% agree.
Yeah. And all of my consultants, support people, and people like you, Bill.
Well, thank you. I include you in my people as well.
I'm like, it's the relationship. I don't do this work because I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, I do it to make money, of course.
Right, of course.
But I keep doing it because of the people and the impact and engaging with people. So it's like, oh, okay, let's try to create. And one of the easiest things you can do to have your business help foster meaningful relationships or allow time for it is to work with clients you like.
True.
True. So I can't tell you how many advisors I've talked to is like, I really have to let that client go. I really need to. They really, I squirm every time I think I have to meet with them whenever they email me, but I don't know, or I've been working with them a while, and you're like, cut the cord,
Yeah.
So,
when I was much, much younger, I never understood when older colleagues would say things like, no, I don't have time for my life in that for that relationship, but talking about a professional relationship. I just don't have enough time for that. I'm just not going to deal with that anymore. And I used to think, well, don't you have to? Shouldn't you? Well, I think you should work around it. And then and the older I've gotten, the more I realize, no, you have a choice.
Yeah. You have a choice. Yeah, exactly. And I think, you could have kind of a rule of like, you're not going to tolerate jerks, like, and I've worked with many of the firm leaders. I think a lot of people who are growth minded and focused, they and who care about, fulfillment as a whole have started to internalize and say, I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm not going to tolerate it for my employees to have to deal with people like that either.
Exactly.
So I think that's big. You can also be very clear on your company values and make sure you're hiring team members who are who align with those values so that they're adding to the culture and helping to strengthen it. Mm-hmm. I've seen that with this firm I've been working with, where they are extremely intentional. They hire very slowly and make sure that they're bringing in people who align with the values, and they have an extraordinary retention rate and a really strong family-like culture. So I think it fulfills a lot of, the relationship need that people have. And then they also have a culture that supports family and outdoor things, where it's like, yes, of course, go to your kid's recital, or of course you're going to have a week off. We haven't seen you take time off in a while. Go out and do that. So really setting that importance. And a great example I have is one of my coaching clients who I've worked with on different occasions throughout the years. She made an intentional choice to finish work by 3:00, 2 days a week, so she could pick up her kids from school and not have to. And it wasn't just to pick them up. It was, I'm done at 3:00, 2 days a week, and I'm done with work. So I can be fully present with the people in my life who are, not work, my family. Yes, I want to do this. And so it was around compartmentalizing, again, having control over your calendar. Also, she intentionally, I won't say slowed growth, but said we're going to just keep a reasonable pace of growth versus being super aggressive, so that she could maintain this integration of hey, I'm doing work. I love my work, and I'm going to be at home 2 days a week, and I'm going to take spring break off, and I'm going to take summer Fridays. And so she kind of shifted the culture as well. So I thought that was a pretty cool one too.
That is a good one. That's great.
Yeah. All right. Next one is my favorite, well-being. How are you physically, mentally, and emotionally well? I can talk about this.
I know. I was just going to say, but that is kind of like the sum of everything we've been talking about so
It really
far.
is.
Really?
It really is. Because we know, again, we know that when you are physically, mentally, and emotionally well, you're in a good spot. You make clear decisions. You got good handle on things, and we know that is like the holy grail, and it's constantly moving around, right? So, how are you feeling? What are you doing? What do you need to be emotionally and mentally well? Look at that. Figure that out for your future. And then how can your work serve that, whether it's environment, workload, team that you're working with, people you're around. So these all kind of cross over together.
Very much, yes.
Yeah. But so again, this gets back to maybe you set the pace of growth for the firm that is reasonable so that people aren't overworked, right? So that you're like, you know what, we could try to grow 20%, but maybe we dial it back to about 15%. We're still going to do well, and people aren't going to feel overwhelmed, overworked, and they can integrate more of, work fits better in their life. Maybe you stay ahead in hiring. So you're always about a half person or a person ahead of being like, all right, we have a little extra capacity right now. And, as long as the numbers work out, but we're always training ahead. I worked with a firm in Utah who was fantastic at that. They were always bringing in the next person ahead of when they'd need them, so they could train them, get them ready. And they had a pretty consistent projection of growth. But, kind of we had worked on the marketing plan and getting those things together, but they always made sure they had the team member there ready to go. Also gets into things you could do here of cross training, so people can take time off to go on vacation. Again, oh, I can't ever go on vacation because who's going to cover for me? Especially someone in operations, or, they're in a role where it's like, well, the clients need me. Well, do they need you, or do they just need to talk to someone, Yeah. Yeah. So another thing, maybe you're encouraging walking meetings at the, hey, let's have a meeting. We can take a walk instead of sitting at the conference room, Maybe it's having health. Remember we talked about the healthy snack tray at one of the. Yeah, have the healthy foods there. People want a snack. Put something healthy in front of them. Put something healthy in front of yourself. So these are all things you're trying to, how do we fuel the well-being, So I love this one. I could talk about hey, have another firm I worked with. It's funny when we talk about this, and I remember they would bring in a personal trainer on Tuesdays or something, and have a Pilates workout or something in there. They had this big open space, and they're oh, today we're having Pilates at 3:00 or yoga at 4. And that wasn't a huge firm, right? They're probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 people.
Wow.
But someone would organize to bring in, oh, hey, I know we're going to do our fitness Tuesdays or whatever. And I was like, oh, I love that.
That's great. That's cool. I like that, actually.
Yeah, that was a cool one. I like that. So, all right, last area, experiences and impact. what are the contributions you want to be making or experiences you want to have to get fulfillment? This could be around travel. It could be about volunteering. It could be about community impact. It could be a lot of things. It varies for, different people.
Yeah.
What is it that your business can do to help support or enable those contributions? And I think one of the biggest things here is that you allow people time and space to go and do volunteer efforts if they want to, or to participate in the community events in some way. And the degree to which you can align the company resources to help support a cause that maybe you all care about in the community, you can do that. This firm who does the workouts also does community projects where they'll, I don't know how frequently, once a month, maybe get together and be like, okay, we're going to be doing the coat drive or get backpacks with school supplies for the kids in the neighborhood for back to school. And so it's a core part of their culture. And so people can contribute and give back that way.
I love those kinds of projects. I love them for a lot of different reasons. One is it sends a message to your employees, what you corporately value. But second, it also sends a message to the community as well, to the larger community outside of your work, that it's like, hi, we are here, we care, and we are actively taking part in being a part of the community.
Right.
Yeah?
Exactly. And I think it also is, this gets back to time blocking, scheduling, and things like that. Like if you're highly engaged in your church or synagogue, or you want to be involved in, your community in that way, and that's important to you, it's like drawing boundaries, setting parameters so that you're free to go and do the things that you want to do. Another one around this is, there's this organization called Thrivent. They're huge. They're a very large financial group here in the U.S., and they actually offer their advisors. They set up these contributions for advisors to follow passion projects. So they will give like $250 for you to hold and, support an event, to, do a food drive in the community, or do a passion project for the advisors to contribute and try to get engagement from their membership. They've always had from what I've learned from working with them, they've had a through line kind of supporting Christianity and Christian work and giving back and being pastoral and being out in the community. And so that's particularly in line with them, but they offer up dollars to people to be able to help other people. So that's interesting. And kind of another one in this one could be like, if you're starting to think about like, what's the legacy I want to leave for my firm and the contribution I want to make within the company itself that still fulfills you. It's like having clear career tracks for advisors who come in so people can see how they might be able to move up the ladder. Teaching and training your next generation so that you can keep the firm and the what you've created or built, keep it going and have the next generation in place, and taking on some of those mentorship things that can be pretty fulfilling. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, charitable or out in your community. It could be within your firm and saying, how is it that I'm going to impact or add there? Because sometimes that's where people want to make a difference.
Well, there's a lot to be said for a dynamic, firm, because a dynamic firm where people want to work does a lot in terms of supporting that work-life integration, because now you want to work there, and now you like making that work part of your life, and you can integrate your life in your work more easily, I think, because you're like, people are happy, and they're like, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing, and now you go, okay, cool.
Right. And I think the more you facilitate a culture where people share their life vision that's outside of work and what do they want to do, like encouraging, you want to write a fiction novel? Great. Have you considered going out and taking a class on that? Maybe you should do that look at that, and encouraging people to pursue life vision. I think that from a leadership standpoint could be incredible. And I've seen it when it works, and it's
Yes.
really strong. All right. What's the call to action, you say? Right?
I
What are
do.
we doing? Yes.
I know.
Well, first of all, I encourage people to download this sheet and take a look and spend some time and work through the questions. But to boil it down, if you're feeling like this work and life tension versus integration, like if you're feeling the competition, it's like identify one area, one of these 5 areas we talked about, or another area where you're like, I feel really out of alignment and I'm always trading off, and say, let me look at one thing I can do, one change I can make that will free up more energy, help me feel more fulfilled, or make a difference. And it could be something as simple as signing up to play pickleball on Fridays at 10. And okay, that's what I'm doing. And now it's forcing my 4-day week. And I am going to have to shift and change and make something different there. So that example is one of the best ones I heard of. Like it's actionable. You can do it right away. And you can start to see, wow, I can do work and life together, supporting it without it being in competition. So I ever a student in this arena, but I encourage people to be intentional and take a look and take an action to take them in the direction they want to go.
In that direction, should anybody be reminded, is in the case of your company or your firm, it's the 2.0 version
Yeah,
of
exactly.
you know?
Right.
And so, Kristin, for people who are listening to this, who are maybe interested in your coaching or maybe interested in engaging with you to work with them to help them evolve their vision, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you or to set up an arrangement with you?
The very best way is to go to fulladvisorcoaching.com and click that request a call button in the upper right corner and schedule time. We'll have a 15 or 30-minute call, depending on you can choose. And if you want to, you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's a great place. Just message me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have a conversation. And I also want to encourage people, if you know someone in your firm or someone in a study group, a colleague who is feeling this tension of the work-life integration, share this episode with them. Forward the episode to them. I'm always sending episodes around to friends and clients, and not my own. I mean, sometimes my own, but I'm saying I heard this episode and it sparked, who would like this? Yeah. And I send it to them. So I encourage you, if you know someone who would benefit from hearing this, please share the episode with them.
Absolutely. The other thing that you can do if you're not a subscriber is become a subscriber. That part's easy. You just hit the follow button. The beauty of that one is that when you are a subscriber, you're notified every time Kristin drops a new episode, and you can give that a listen. And if you feel so moved, share that with people as well. By the way, I do the same thing. I've been accused of being an oversharer sometimes, and I read stuff and thinking, oh wow, Kristin would really like that. I'm going to say, but I think most people really appreciate it. They really actually do. So thank you for taking the time to listen to the podcast today. And I want to remind you that you can go out today and make today a great day. You can go out and find a way to integrate your work and life, or not. You do have a choice, and the choice is yours. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Full Advisor Coaching, the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the follow button so you'll never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can become a part of the Full Advisor community, visit fulladvisorcoaching.com. Remember, stay connected and get notified as soon as brand new episodes release. Click the follow button now. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kristin Harrod or Full Advisor Coaching.